Good morning and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session of non-business communication. My name is Swati Thakre, student of PGDT English first year of Gondwana University. First of all, I would like to welcome Head of Department of PGDT of Dr. Joshi sir. Nextly, I would like to welcome all the faculty members and professor of PGDT English, Dr. Silpa Atkole ma'am, Dr. Vaibhav Masram sir, Assistant Professor of the Atul Gavaskar sir, Dr. Pramod Javade sir, and last but not the least, all students and participate. Today is our seventh session, and our speaker is Dr. Priti Bhandekar ma'am. Dr. Priti Bhandekar ma'am is present presently working is an assistant professor in Model English College, Gadchiroli. She has published more than 5 research papers. She is doing PhD under the guidance of Dr. Vivek Joshi sir. Now I hold over the session, Priti ma'am. Over you, ma'am.
Thank you, Swati. Good morning, everyone. I'm very excited to join this session. I give the very special thank you to Dr. Vivek Joshi, sir, who gave me opportunity to become a part of this Noe series, and also give the very special thank to organization team, uh, especially Dr. Masram, sir, Dr. Atwale, ma'am, Dr. Javre, sir, and Gavaskar, sir, for inviting me this important session. Thank you so much. So today I want to discuss on the topic of business communications. As you know, the communication is very important in our life. We communicate with each other, but we don't know what kind of the process we follow when we communicate with each other. So man is a social animal and he live in the society where the communication is very important because through this communication he can build the society. He can maintain the good relationship among his relatives and among his colleagues. So good communication establish good corporations among the groups and institutions. So communication is very important topic, so that I choose this topic for this session. So communication communication is deeply intertwined with human existence and is integral part of it. One cannot think without communication. And in our personal life also, communication need to deal with various activities, relationships, and concerns and problems, and also maintain the relationship among our relatives. And in our professional life also, communication help us to build a healthy relationship among in our co-workers also. So speaking is not the way we communicate. Communications can various forms. So sometimes we communicate by talking about our ideas, thoughts, and emotions. Whereas on other side, communications we may wish to communicate by writing about them or using non-verbal signals. So whatever the forms we choose, getting the message across is what the communication is about. So today I choose this topic, business communications. I quote here one of the important writer, George Bernard Shaw. The single biggest problem in the communication is the illusion that it has take place. So when you communicate with anyone, it created the illusion among our uh, among in the senders or receiver, because communications involves both sending and the receiving messages, and the illusion arises when there is a breakdown in either the transmissions of message. For instance, message might not be conveyed clearly or might be created distractions in the communication. So At the time, the receiver leading this message and creating misunderstanding among the receiver. So good communications and effective communication is very important. So in this session, what we learn? We learn what the communication is, type of communications, and the barriers of communications, and why the communication is essential for business. We understand all this topic in this session. So first, we try to understand what the communication is. We all know that communication, simply we can say communication is to share our ideas, knowledge. Okay, so in order to understand this topic, what the communication is, so first of all, we understand the word communication is derived from the Latin word communis, which means to share, to transmit, to exchange, and to convey. So in order to understand this term communications, it would be useful to have a look at some definitions given by some experts. So here we discuss some definitions. First definitions is given by Newson Salmon. Communications in an exchange of fact, ideas, opinions, or emotions by two or more persons. Another definition is communication is the process of passing informations and understanding from one person to another. And it is a process of imparting ideas and making oneself understood by others. We can say simply what the communication is. It's simply communication is process where we share our ideas, knowledge, and thought to one person to another. So when you communicate, it is very important sender and the receiver. So after know what the communications, we try to understand the process of communications. Daily we communicate with each other, but what kind of the process we follow when we communicate, we don't know. So here we learn what kind of the process we follow when we communicate with anyone. So first of all, the sender, first of all, we can say communication is two-way process. It is require sender and the receiver who can understand the sign, symbols, and language of each other. And the process of communications begin with ideas. So sender thinks some kind of the ideas. Then the sender means speaker or encoders or the writer. He decoded, he encoding some kind of the message, and then the receiver through the channel or media and the receiver who decoding this message and then the giving feedback to sender. This process we can see in the picture also. So in the picture, the source is the sender and this in front of sitting the peoples who is the receivers, who are receivers. So sender is a sending some kind of the message, and the receiver who decoded this message means who understand this message, and then he give the feedback to sender. So this kind of the process is following when the communication is going on. So we in our daily life we can follow this process. We think something and then we talk with our friends or relatives, and then your friend is understand this message and then he give the feedback to you. And another example I give in your classroom also. So when your teacher is taught something or teaching some topic to you, at the time they give the informations and knowledge to you, and you are decoded this message, and then you give the feedback to sender. Sender means your teacher. So this feedback is when your exam is going on, you solve this exam and you get the highest marks, then you think that you give the better feedback. So feedback is also very important. When you understand clearly, your feedback is better, or it give the very precious. So after understand this process of communications, we try to understand the type of communication. So there are the four main type of the communication: verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written communication, and group communication. So these four, there are the lot of other type of the communications, but here we have discussed four main important type of the communication. So the first is verbal communication. So what the means of verbal communications? Verbal means oral. When you speak, right now I'm speaking with you. I'm using words and language to communicate with you. That means I'm using verbal communication. Okay. So verbal communication is a process of using spoken words to express ideas, thoughts, and feeling to others. It involves using of voices to communicate with people around us, whether it's through conversation, whether through its presentation or speeches or face-to-face communication. And it allows us to convey the information, share stories, ask questions, connect with others more deeply. So verbal communication is also very important. Daily we use these communications in our life. Okay, so when you talk on telephone, you are using the verbal communication. When you uh, give a speech, you are using verbal communication. When you uh, communicate face to face, using verbal communication. So verbal communication is very important, and it become a part of our life. So then we discuss moving on our non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication is very important because these part, the non-verbal, there are the lot of the questions are asking on various competitive exam, because these communication is very important. So what the means of non-verbal communication? In the previous slide, we see that verbal communication means you are using words and language. But in the non-verbal communications, we are not using words and language. We are using signs and signals to communicate. So non-verbal communication is a process of sending, receiving messages without using words, either spoken or written. It involves a range of clues, signals that we employ unconsciously or consciously to express our thoughts, feeling, and intentions. So these communication, we can see that there are the various types. So you raise the questions in our mind that what kind of the non-verbal clues. Okay, so there are the 7 type of the non-verbal clues we can see in the picture also. So first is the kinesis, proxemics, personal appearance, physical environment, chronemics, and vocalics. Since these are the 7 type of the non-verbal clues, so we can try to understand this type. So kinesis means when you are using body languages, your physical appearance, your gesture, your movements, your nodding heads is also part of this kinesis. When you want to say yes, you just move your head. And when you want to say no, you just nodding your head. That means you want to say no and you want to say yes. So you are not using words and language, but you communicate. You give the message to other that you want to say yes or no. And your body language is also, your facial expressions also communicate with another, communicate with someone. For example, when you are happy or when you are sad, your facial expression, what kind of the facial expressions you have to show? Can anyone say? When you are happy, what kind of the expressions is in your face?
We are smiling.
Yes, absolutely. When you are happy, your face is communicate with anyone that you are happy. Means your expression is giving message. And when you are sad, your expression is dull. You are look like yes. So your facial expressions, your body language, and your body movement is also giving message. So your kinesis is also very important. So when we talk about haptics means touch. When you shake hand, so what you do, you are touching with others hand. Okay, you are shaking hand. So at the time, shaking hand is very important, simple gesture, but powerful element of body language. It plays a huge role in determining how others perceive you, in creating positive impact. The way you shake hand reveal the kind of person you are. Okay, when you showing superiority, your shaking hand is like a different. When you satisfied with other person or offering protections, your shaking hand is different. So when you want to transmit feeling of respect, at the time your shaking hand is different. So touch is also very important non-verbal clue. So when we talk about proxemics, what the means of proxemics? Proxemics means space distance. So you all are maintaining the distance in our life. Maybe intimate distance, personal distance, social distance, and public distance. Okay, so when you accompanied with your friends or relatives or your close friend, you just follow the intimate distance, personal distance. But when you in our social uh, life, means when you with your uh, college, schools, so at the time you have to follow the social distance. But when you in a public place, you follow the public distance. Means you have some kind of the distance to maintain among our colleagues or friends or relatives. So these proxemics is very important. The student who are from MA English and they appeared the exam of UGC NET. So this question is asked on this topic, proxemics. So they simply give the uh, options there: space distance, close distance. So space distance is very answer of that question at the time. So then we talk about the paralanguage. So what the means of paralanguage? Paralanguage means we are not using the language, but we communicate. When you happy, you loudly laughing. You're laughing so loudly. And when you're sad, you're crying. So at the time, you communicate, but using these non-verbal clues. So moving on to next part, written communication. So previously we see that we are using verbal communications, non-verbal clues, but sometimes we are also communicate through the written. So what the means of written communications? So written communication is involved the use of written words to convey a message. It can take a form of letter, memos, reports, emails, text messages, and social media post. Okay, so written communication is often used in a business and formal setting where it is important to maintain the record of communication. In your schools and college, we can see what kind of the notice they want to convey among you. They just simply pasted the notice on the notice board. So you read this notice and you give the message that uh, something is your exam is going on, whatever kind of the message they have pasted. So you this written message is communicate with you. So moving on, our next slide, group communication. So group communication is also very important. It involves the exchange of informations between three or more people. It can be take a form of meeting, conference, presentation. So group communication is important in the business, educations, and politics, where it is often necessary to work collaboratively with others. So right now we are also communicate with each others, and there are a lot of the students are joining these communications. So it is also part of the group communication. And at the same time, I'm using the words and language to communicate. So I using the verbal communication also. And I written slide is also written communication. And my facial expression, or sometime I using a hand gesture. So it's also a part of the non-verbal communication. So moving on to next slide, barriers of communication. We understand what the communication, process of communication, and we understand the type of communications. But the now the point is barriers of communication. What the means of barriers? So barriers means distraction. When you communicate with someone at a time, it created the distractions or disturbance in the communication. It happened in our day-to-day life also. When you are talking with your friend and someone is loudly very speaking, okay, so at the time your effective communication is not going at the time, because our communication is creating the distractions, disturbance in the communication. Okay, so there are the various type of the distractions or various type of the barriers of communication. So first of all, we discuss the physical barriers. So what do you means as physical barriers? Physical barriers means when you communicate with someone or when you communicate with anyone at the time, it creating the distractions and disturbance in the communication. And those barriers which are the cause due to some technical defects in the media or use of communication or due to certain disturbance in the surrounding atmosphere. Okay, for example, the noise of traffic around school. We may experience in our school time and in our college time also. Okay, so a school in a school, the abstract of smooth flow of informations between the teacher and the student, but it makes oral communication is difficult. Why? these physical or environmental barriers of communication. Another example I give, poor signal. Right now, some students want to join this session, but what happened? The poor signal of internet while taking over their mobile phones or their laptop. So it creating the distractions in the communication, and when you want to communicate effectively, but we are not communicate effectively because it creating the environmental or physical barriers or distractions in the communication. So then we talk about the biological barriers. So what the means of biological barriers? Biological barriers are related to person's health and fitness, and physical defect in one's body may also distract the communications. So when you communicate with someone, our physical appearance or our physical health is very important. For example, when you attend your class, but you are ill or you have a headache or stomach pain. So what happened? You are physically present in your class, but you mentally you are disturbed because you are pain in your stomach or your headache. So at the time your teacher is teaching you very important topic, and he just give the great knowledge about the topic, but what happened? Our biology, our physically we are not fit. So at the time it created the biological distractions in the communications. It created the biological barriers of effective communication. So then we talk about the language barriers or semantic barriers. Such a barriers are problem that arises during the process of encoding or decoding messages into the words and idea respectively. For example, I talk to you in English, okay? But the student who don't understand English, what happened? They are not and they are not get it, or they are not understood what I say. So at the time it created the language barriers. It created the distractions among our effective communication. So effective communication is very important, but these language barrier created the distraction. So then we talk about the perceptional barriers. So perceptional barriers also closely related with personal barriers. Personal barriers arises from the motives, attitudes where the perceptional barriers have added, because different peoples have a different kind of the perception, and these perceptions is created the distractions in the communication. Two peoples are talking with each other, but their perception are different. One say yes and one say no. So what happened? Their communication is going to effectively no. So at the time, their communication is not going to effectively. So another topic is cultural barriers. So cultural barriers are those obstacles that hinder the effective communication between the individuals or groups from different culture background. For example, another barrier is found in the believed values in a different cultures. Okay, so different cultures has a different kind of the belief, their religions and their perceptions. So it created the distractions in the communications among two peoples. Then we talk about organizational barriers. So organizational barriers may create the conflict within an organizations between the superiors and subordinates, among the peoples working in a different departments. Okay, so uh, in the same department, the all the peoples they are have a not the same goal. They have a different goals. So at the time, it creating the distractions in the communication. So at the time, this distraction is organizational barriers. So right now, the important topic, that the importance of communications in a business. So communication is important in our day-to-day life and in our professional life. And communication is very important in our business life also, because it build a positive atmosphere where the teams can flourish. If your communication is not better, what happened? Our team is not working properly. They have any kind of the misunderstanding or conflict, or creating the conflict among in our business. So effective communication is very important. Another is a preventing misunderstanding and conflict. Listening, a part of communicating used to understand situation fully. If the effective communications, we can avoid this conflict. So you are the effect you have a effective communications, or you are the ability to speak better communications. So at the time, we try to overcome this conflict in the business. So good communication is also in the business improve the customer service, and also the good communications earning the success and maintain the goals, because you have a good ability of effective communication. And also effective communication promoting the creativity and innovations in business. And also effective communication advancing individuals career and prospect. Why? Because you have a better knowledge about the effective communication. So effective communication is very important in our personal life and in our professional life. So right now we are done on the question answer session. So we learn the process, what the communication, types of communication, process of communication, and barriers of communication. But these process we are following this session also. I get the idea and I am a sender. So I am sending some kind of the message. The message is, I want to discuss the topic on a business communication. So you are the decoder, you are the receiver, you are decoding this message, and then you give the feedback to me. So this feedback is, you scan this code and try to get the try to solve this question. It is not important to give the correct answer. I just want to follow this process of communication, so that I just give this question here. Please scan this code and try to solve this question. Okay, so many students trying this. Okay, yes. Okay. So lots of students are trying to solve this question, and the question is very simple. Okay, okay. Thank you for giving this scan this code and give the answer of this question. So now the moving on the conclusion part. So in this conclusion session, what we learn from this session or learn from this topic. So we can learn that effective communication is a cornerstone of success in any business environment and in our personal life also. And in this presentation highlighted the importance of clear, concise, and respectful communications across the various channels, including verbal, written, group, and non-verbal communication. So hope I think here is my references. Okay. Thank you so much for joining this session, and you all are listen carefully, and it's all about me. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request to all the participants, if you have any queries, then you can feel free to ask Priti Vandekar, ma'am. I request to all the participants.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Ma'am, traffic lights are the example of which communication?
Sorry, I cannot get it. Can you
Hello,
repeat this sentence? Yes, yes. Can you repeat?
traffic lights are the example of communication.
Yes, yes, yes. Traffic light is the non-verbal clue, because nobody is talking to you that you can stop there or you can go. But the red light, what you get communicate at a time, you stop, and the green, you green at the time communicate you go. So traffic signal is the non-verbal clue.
Okay, ma'am. My second question is, according to you, which communication is better?
I think non-verbal, because what why I say, because in 100% of our communication, 55% part of the communication we are using non-verbal clues. Only 5% we are using verbal communication, and 38% are using para languages or others. So I think non-verbal communication is better.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes.
To develop business communication skills.
I think we can develop the business communications. So practice is most important. If you practice more, then your communication is also improved. And maybe it's also similar with our business communications also. So business communication is improved when you practice, or you can communicate effectively with your co-workers or your partners, maybe. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else?
Ma'am, I have one question.
Yes, Prabodhin.
Ma'am,
Prabodhin.
we faced many problems in communication in the rural areas. So, how to overcome that problems?
Okay, so I think uh, right now the technology is very fast. So we can use the technology. We can hear lots of channels in our YouTubes. So we can use these channels, podcast, for practice the listening, speaking, or listening. So you can use this. Uh, mm, you can use this. I thought.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
So I think
for you,
yes, yes.
what what is mean by broadcast?
Proxemics, you can say.
What is mean by broadcast?
Podcast. Podcast is a simply say we can say a channel podcast. Okay, where the speakers who speak, who share their stories, knowledge on the podcast, and we can listen this carefully. We can improve our communication also. I think you can say you can give the better option for improving communication. I thought, Sanjana.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now the question session is over. If
Okay, I
anyone
can
have
say
the question, then we will share your contact number in participant. Then they can directly ask to you and communicate with you. Okay.
okay. So
Now we are going to
I
turn the questions. No, wait for 1 minute, 2 minutes.
I wanted to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude for the Dr. Vivek Joshi sir and organizations team for assistance with this session, and also very thanks to all the students who listen carefully and also responding me in this session. Thank you so much all the student and all the participant and organization team. Thank you so much. Over
Ma'am,
to you.
wait for our
Yes.
good afternoon to each one of you present. I am Satna Durgam, MA second year PGTD of Gondwana, PGTD of English Gondwana University, Gadchiroli. We have reached to the end of today's seventh section of NOA series 4.0 2024. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to our chairperson of program, Dr. Vivek sir, organize a very beautiful and effective section of us. I am extremely thankful to today's chief guest and speaker, Dr. Priti Bhandekar ma'am, Model Degree, Model Degree College, Gondwana University, Gadchiroli, for giving us a very beautiful thoughtful and enterprising guidance on overview of business communication session. Dr. Priti Bhandekar, ma'am, have a very good information about business communication session. So thank you so much, madam, for the wonderful session. I would I would like to extend my gratitude to the PhD of English Facility Organizing Team of NOA Series 4.0, Dr. Vaibhav Mesram sir, Dr. Shilpa Atwale ma'am, Dr. Pramod Javre sir, and Mr. and Dr. Atul Gavaskar sir for the wonderful arrangement. I would like to thank all the participation of today's civil section for attending and your cooperation and being the major part make this session successful. I would also like to thank today's session host Swati Thakre, and I would also thank everyone to giving me this opportunity to vote of thanks. Last but the note the last last but not the least, I appreciating and thank everyone for your participation to make this no series section successful. And here I declare the section is over. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Sanjana.
Wait
Thank
for
you,
one
everyone.
minute, ma'am. Uh,
Yes,
I request to all the participants, please turn on their camera because we have to take one group photo. This will be memory for us. So that's why. Uh, Prabodhi,